Hello, Eddie Wilson here with Christian Media International. I'm excited to bring you one of our latest guests in the studio. Not a new guest, but a longtime guest. This is his third time in our recording studio, producing programming for his country. Today we're with Paul Dudka, Pastor Paul Dudka, and he is from the Ukraine. And we're going to listen in and tell you a little bit about his story and his life's journey. So Paul, you were saved in a pretty miraculous way. I've heard the story many times, but do you mind just walking me back through those days when you were in the woods and you were cutting down this tree? It was a pretty amazing story. Can you walk us back through that?
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd like to start with telling what God did in my life. It was back in 1999. So in Carpathy Mountains, western part of Ukraine. Actually, we're a big family, so we tried to survive somehow, and I went to the forest to cut the trees. And one day I remember...
So, not to interrupt you, but you would cut those trees and then sell firewood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was the only way how we would survive, just cut the trees and sell them. And one day, it was 2nd of December, 1999, I was in the forest, and I was cutting the tree, and somehow the tree fell on me and broke my pelvis, broke my back, broke my legs. So I was alone in that day, and I was laying in the snow, and when it happened, I started to realize what is life, because before that, God was calling me, but I really refused to follow Him. So when it happens, I realized that's the time when I need to call help from God and when I need to receive Jesus.
Sure.
So, and actually that was the day when in the forest, laying on the ground, I accept Jesus as my own Savior, and I believe that was the day when I got saved.
Amen.
So.
Amen. So how did you get out of the forest? What happened?
I was crying and I was shouting, and after 2 hours, somebody found me there. So, and I really don't remember everything, because it was, it was stress for me. But somebody found me and brought me first to my house and then to the hospital. So, and I stayed in the hospital for 3 months. And doctor said there is no hope for that guy because everything was broken and, But I remember that time when I was in the hospital, every day I was reading the Bible at least 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day. I was reading and was just crying and was searching God. So, and then I realized that happened because God needed to do something in my life to change my direction. Okay.
Amen. Amen.
So
that's a pretty awesome story. God does do amazing things in our lives to bring us to Him, and it is an amazing story. But the story didn't stop there. You got saved, trusted Christ there, but how did you end up becoming a pastor? Now you're a pastor and a pastor of multiple churches, but how did that process happen?
Well, after 1 year, I found the church, and I was baptized in that church, and then after I went to Bible school. I graduated Bible school for 4 years, full time, and then after in 2007, I became a pastor. So that's how God called me to do the ministry. And being the pastor of Revival Baptist Church, then we started to work. And we started 3 more churches, actually, that I'm pastoring now, 4 churches.
Amen. So you pastor 4 churches.
I'm responsible for them.
That must be a difficult task, pastoring 4 different churches. How close are they together in proximity? Do you have to travel a ways to get to those 4 churches?
Yeah, one church is really far away in the mountains, about 50 miles, and bad roads. It's sometimes it takes hours to get there. So other church is about 30 miles, and the third one is about 20 miles from our church.
Okay.
So, but we're working that we would have our own pastors, so we have deacons already. They will take responsibility and will work.
Amen. I've heard oftentimes that Ukraine being a part of Eastern Europe is a very dark and difficult place. Do you find it to be difficult? I mean, you have started multiple churches. You've seen many people saved, many people baptized. As far as the spiritual condition of the country, I mean, what is that like to you?
Well, we need to realize that Ukraine was under communism ideology for 70 years. And for 70 years, it was completely dark country. And the people who believed in Jesus at that time, they got in prison and they were arrested and killed. Many people were killed in Ukraine because of faith in Jesus Christ.
Wow.
So, and then after Soviet Union was broken back in 1991, we got kind of freedom, but still till now, we have only 1% of believers in Ukraine, which probably would belong to Protestant churches. That's only 1%. It's still a dark country.
So when you are witnessing to someone, sharing your faith, are they receptive, are they open, or are they very resistant?
Well, I would say there is difference. If I go and preach to old generation, they still really don't believe because they were brainwashed by the ideology of communism. But if I preach to young people like my generation, it's much better because they were born after Soviet Union was broken. So they were not under that ideology of communism.
Sure. So it's almost like a fresh start. The older generation very much has the orthodoxy of communism and the ideology, but the younger generation, they're searching.
Yes, young generation, they're really changing. They're not like old generation. They are searching, and what we need to do, we just need to reach young generation because that's much more easy than old.
Sure. Now I know, obviously you partner with Christian Media International and you're one of our pastors on TV. Do you find media to be a great tool to reach this younger generation? Obviously they're very tied to media. Do you feel like media is one of those tools that you can use to reach that younger generation that are searching?
Oh yes. Let me tell you about 3 things about media in Ukraine, how I see that it works now. So first of all, the media impact the mind of people. As I mentioned already, we were under communism, and to preach about Jesus today, it's really hard. And sometimes people will refuse to have you in their house.
Sure.
But when we use the media, TV and radio, so we can reach them through the media. And I see that people are changing direction because of the impact of media.
Amen.
So the second things that I can share with you, the people that would call themselves religious people, Orthodox people, back just a few years ago they were communism, but today they say they're Christians. We also bring them real gospel of salvation, which they never heard before, and through media we're reaching their minds too. So that's also important. But the third things that I see as the results of media, we are reaching the remote places in the mountains where we are not able to get. So I heard many stories that people watching the programs, they're gathering in the neighborhoods, they're gathering and watching, and small Bible groups they started. So it's one of the results of the media ministry in Ukraine.
Amen. That's awesome. We fully believe in that and feel like, in the United States, we feel like we have this adage, and that is that the Air Force goes in and they cover the area, and then you have to have the Marines that are on the ground. That's our military strategy, and I feel like oftentimes media has a similar strategy. You can cover the masses with media, but you still need local pastors on the ground to go minister to those people, and obviously that's what you're doing.
I teach in Bible school. I have over 60 students, and I believe that we need to train young people. They are really fight for the Lord. They really want to be in ministry. So I teach them every year. We have over 60 students now, including from Revival Baptist Church that I pastor. We have now 6 boys already.
Amen.
So, and in a while they become a missionary and pastors for our churches.
That's awesome. Now, if you wouldn't mind, it was awesome to learn a little bit more about the Ukraine and your ministry there. If you wouldn't mind, tell the audience specifically what you need. What's your greatest need in the Ukraine? Obviously, you're a self-supported pastor. You do get a little support from the U.S., but not very much. And just, articulate what your greatest need is.
Well, I would tell that most of the pastors in Ukraine, they don't have any salary from the church, or like talking about myself, from Bible college or churches. So all what we need to do, we just need to pray and trust God and look for some support from outside. So the main need that I would tell for myself and most of the pastors in Ukraine, that's support for family, for daily need. And if somebody would support that, we would be really great.
Sure.
So
sure. Very good. I want to say, from CMI, from our perspective, Pastor Paul has been, I believe, ordained of God to come to us and to be used by God. And it was miraculous how he came to us through this distant friend and ended up coming in the studio, and the whole story has just been a miraculous story. And then almost immediately went on a television network across the entire country. And so it's been an amazing partnership, and I can't say to you, the viewer, enough how much we support and we endorse the ministry of Pastor Paul Dudka. As many of these pastors that pastor in these small, remote villages, the amount of wealth in those areas is so small that these churches can barely support a pastor. And so we would love to endorse him and recommend that if you have missions dollars that you're willing to give, I would love to recommend Pastor Paul Dudka to you for the great work that he is doing in the western part of Ukraine, and obviously branching out all over the mountain regions. So we will put on the screen a way to support you. Obviously you have a local mission board here. Yeah. And so we'll put that up, and then they can support you through that local mission board. But appreciate your work, appreciate all that you've done for us and for the cause of Christ.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. God bless you too.